Hey, this is Jeremy Standiford, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the source of all misery and how to achieve the ultimate happiness. Throughout life, we have moments of misery and unhappiness, and sometimes we experience long periods of deep misery. But none of this is necessary. Happiness is your true nature. It's your natural state. If you ever watch children, they don't really experience unhappiness. I mean, sure, they cry from time to time, but for the most part, they're happy and in good spirits. And it's possible for all of us to live life that way. And in this video, you'll discover the source of all misery and how to achieve the ultimate happiness. So what ultimately makes us feel unhappiness and sorrow is frustrated desires. And there's two types of desires that we could have. There's what you might call positive desires, the desire to have, be, or do something, and also negative desires, the desire to not have, be, or do something. And whenever you hold on to either of these desires, it creates misery and suffering for reasons I'll explain later on in this video. But if you can let go of these desires, the unhappiness they create will go away and you'll experience your natural state of peace and joy. So the problem with positive desires is it creates a feeling of lack. And lack doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to feel like you are lacking something or that you don't have something. You might think that having, being, or doing that thing will make you happy, but happiness comes from within. Even if you get that thing that you want, the car, the job, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, and it makes you happy, the happiness that you feel is still coming from within. So why not skip the intermediary and just feel happy now? When you make your happiness dependent on people, things, or circumstances, you're giving your power away. What you're really saying is that your happiness is dependent on the external world. And there's no freedom in that. But when you make your happiness dependent on external circumstances, you're giving your power away. What you can do instead is let go of the desire. When you do this, you will feel more and more happiness because you're eliminating that agonizing feeling of lack. Now you might be saying, if I let go of wanting something, how will I get it? And to that, I would say that wanting is not the same as having. Wanting can often get in the way of having. Have you ever been on a date with someone and they acted so needy and desperate that you got turned off and didn't want to date them anymore? Or have you ever talked with a salesperson who was so pushy and eager to make the sale that you didn't want to buy even though you liked the product or service? Compare those two scenarios with the opposite. Imagine going on a date with someone and they're completely confident and able to express themselves honestly. Or think about talking with a salesperson who's genuinely interested in you and your needs rather than just closing the sale. Which of these two scenarios do you think is more likely to result in success? If you guessed the latter, you're right. When you're coming from a place of I am enough or I have enough, you don't engage in self-defeating behaviors like neediness or being pushy for that sale. And you don't experience the agony and misery that a sense of lack brings you. There's another type of desire that creates suffering, and that is a negative desire, the desire to not have, be, or do something. For instance, you might have a negative desire for work. You don't like your work and you don't want to go to work. Or you have a negative desire to not get in a car accident, for instance. And these are perfectly natural to have. Of course, there's things that we don't want to experience, but there's a few problems with negative desires. The first one is that when you're focusing on something that you don't want, you're already picturing it in your mind. So if you're saying, I don't want to get in a car accident, I don't want to get in a car accident, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about getting in a car accident, and you're at least a little bit already feeling the pain or the suffering from that car accident. And another problem with negative desires is that we tend to get what we focus on. And so if your focus is on something that you don't want, you're going to unconsciously steer yourself towards that. An example of this in the real world is something called target fixation, which is one of the most common causes of car accidents. The sort of a loose definition of target fixation is a behavior in which a person becomes so focused on a singular object that they tend to ride or drive straight into it. This occurs more commonly in motorcycles because the steering on a motorcycle is much more attuned to the minuscule, sometimes subconscious movements of the rider. You could also say that the steering of your life is more attuned to the minuscule, sometimes subconscious movements of you, the rider. So when you are focused on something you want to avoid, you will often subconsciously steer yourself towards it. But there is a way to avoid the pain and suffering that both positive and negative desires create: letting them go. When you let go of desire, you also let go of the suffering they create, and you avoid the subconscious behaviors that lead to undesirable outcomes. Letting go of desires is easy. It may take a while to completely let go of any given desire or aversion, but with persistent effort, you can be free of the desire and the suffering it creates. In my coaching program, I teach several different ways of letting go, but to get you started, I'm going to share with you one of the simplest and most powerful ways to release desires: welcoming. To welcome something is to allow it to be here, just opening to it fully. And when you do this, there is an opening inside, and the desire often releases all on its own. Welcoming is the opposite of what we normally do with desires. What we normally do is hold on to the desire, clutching or gripping as tightly as we can. And gripping onto a desire like that is what creates the suffering. This clutching also is the cause of self-defeating behaviors that lead to undesirable outcomes. If you do the opposite, then the desire and the suffering it creates will release all on its own. And so for this exercise, I'm going to explain maybe the three elements of any given desire, whether it be positive or negative. The first is the desire itself. I want this, I don't want that. And then there's actually another layer of wanting below that. You have the desire, but then there's the wanting to maybe figure it out, the wanting to fix it, the wanting to change it, the wanting to maybe get approval from getting that desire, or wanting to be safe, right? Sometimes we want things because we want to be safe, or we want things because we want the approval of others. And so that's number two, the wanting behind the desire. And then the third is the sense that it's personal, that it's about you or who you are. And so if you welcome or allow these three aspects of any given desire, it will release, and the suffering that it creates will also go with it. And you'll feel happy and joyful. So let's do an exercise together, and so you can try it out and see for yourself if what I'm saying is true or not. So let's begin. allow yourself to focus inside and just think about one positive desire that you have. Think about something that you want to have, be, or do. And just take the first thought or feeling that comes to mind. And could you welcome whatever pictures, sensations, or sounds that brings up in awareness? Could you allow that to be here just for now? And then could you welcome any wanting to do anything with or about that? Could you welcome or notice any wanting to get approval for that, or any wanting to control that, or any wanting to get security or safety from that? Just welcome or acknowledge any and all desires associated, any and all wanting associated with that desire. And then could you welcome as well any sense that it's personal, that it's about you or who you are? Could you welcome any sense of me or mine around that desire? Just allow that to be here just for now. And then, just for now, could you let go of that desire? Could you let go of wanting that as best you can? And if you're struggling with this, remember that wanting is not the same as having. If you let go of the wanting, it makes it easier for you to have, because you won't engage in these subconscious self-sabotaging behaviors that wanting creates. So if there's any remaining desire in this moment, could you let that go as best you can? And let's do that again. Allow yourself to focus inside and think of something else that you've been wanting to have, be, or do. And just take the first thought or feeling that comes to mind. And could you welcome whatever pictures, sensations, or sounds that brings up in awareness? Could you allow that to be here just for now? And could you welcome as well any wanting to do anything with or about that? Any wanting to change that? Any wanting to be safe? Or any wanting to feel whole or complete? Just check inside and see if you can find the wanting to do anything with or about that desire. And just allow that to be here as best you can. And then could you welcome as well any sense of me, any sense of mine, any sense that it's personal, like it's about you or who you are? Could you allow that to be here just for now? And then, as best you can, could you let go of that desire? Could you let go of wanting that just for now? And let's do that one more time. Allow yourself to focus inside and think of that same thing or something else in your life that you've been wanting to have, be, or do. And just take the first thought or feeling that comes to mind. And could you welcome whatever pictures, sensations, or sounds that brings up in awareness? Could you allow that to be here just for now? And could you welcome as well any wanting to do anything with or about that? Any wanting to get love or approval. Welcome any wanting to change or control that, or any wanting to get security or be safe. Could you acknowledge or notice all the wanting that's associated with that desire? And then could you welcome any sense that it's personal, that that desire belongs to you, or that it's about you or who you are? Could you welcome or acknowledge that as best you can? And then, just for now, could you let go of wanting that? Could you simply open inside and drop that desire as best you can? And it's just for now. You can always go back to wanting it later. But for now, let go of the desire as best you can. Now that we've done the first exercise, just check inside and see how you feel after doing a little bit of letting go of desire. Just notice how you feel. What's your state now? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel a little happier? And if you do, then great. That's proof positive of everything I've said in this video. And if not, then I encourage you to try this a little bit more. Give it a few days or a week of just using this process on your own, or you can skip, rewind the video and just notice how you feel when you let go of desire. And now let's do an exercise with negative desires, because our negative desires, or the things we want to avoid, are often cause us more unhappiness than the things that we want to have, be, or do. So let's do an exercise with negative desires, and let's see how you feel after that. So allow yourself to focus inside and think of some situation in your life that you've been wanting to avoid or prevent or escape. And just take the first thought or feeling that comes to mind. And could you welcome whatever pictures, sensations, or sounds that brings up in awareness? Could you allow that to be here just for now? And then could you welcome any wanting to do anything with or about that? Any wanting to prevent that from happening, or any wanting to be safe, any wanting to have control? Just notice the wanting behind that wanting. Why do you want that? And whatever comes up, could you welcome or allow that to be here as best you can? And then could you welcome as well any sense of me or mine, any sense that it's personal or that it's about you or who you are? Could you welcome or acknowledge that just for now? And then, just for now, could you let go of that aversion or that negative desire? Could you let go of not wanting that as best you can? And it's just a decision to let go. You could just decide, okay, I'm going to let that go. And the more you can do that, the happier you will feel. And also the less that you will be unconsciously steering yourself to that, because you're no longer focusing on what you don't want. So let's do that exercise a few more times and we'll see how you feel. So allow yourself to focus inside and think of that same situation or some other situation in your life where you have a negative desire. You've been wanting to avoid something, or prevent something, or it's just something that you don't want. And just take the first thought or feeling that comes to mind. And could you welcome whatever pictures, sensations, or sounds that brings up in awareness? Could you allow that to be here just for now? And then could you welcome any wanting to do anything with or about that? Any wanting to prevent that, or any wanting to be safe, any wanting to have control, or any wanting to get approval or avoid disapproval? Could you welcome or acknowledge any and all wanting associated with that negative desire? And then could you welcome any sense that it's personal, that it's about you or who you are? Could you notice or acknowledge how personal that desire feels, how personal it all feels? And just allow that feeling to be here as best you can. And then, just for now, could you let go of wanting to prevent that, or wanting to escape that, wanting to avoid that? Could you let that go as best you can? And let's do that one more time. Allow yourself to focus inside, and then think of some situation in your life that you've been wanting to avoid, something that you don't want to have, be, or do. And just take the first thought or feeling that comes to mind. And could you welcome whatever pictures, sensations, or sounds that brings up in awareness? Could you allow that to be here just for now? And then could you welcome as well any and all wanting associated with that? Any wanting to fix that, any wanting to change that, any wanting to get approval or love or avoid disapproval, any wanting to have control, or any wanting to be safe or secure? Could you notice or welcome any and all wanting associated with that just for now? And then could you welcome any sense that is personal, any sense of me or mine? Could you welcome or acknowledge how personal that feels as best you can? And then, just for now, could you let that go? Could you decide to drop that desire, to stop wanting to not have, be, or do that? Could you just decide to let that go as best you can? And now that we've done a little bit of this letting go around desires, check inside and see how you feel. See if you feel lighter. See if you feel happier. And if you do, great. That is proof positive that everything I've said so far is true. And if not, then I really encourage you to keep working with this exercise. Keep letting go of desires. Keep letting go of things that you don't want also. And the more you can do this, the more you will feel happiness and at ease in every moment. So thank you for watching, and may you be blessed.